Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Derrek.
Thank you for those keynote presentations, Katharina and David. And thank you to everyone who's joining us this afternoon for our roundtable today. We're going to be speaking about the future of spaces as a service. Joining us, David Turnbull, who gave one of the keynote presentations, Katharina van Shacky, who also gave one, Dominika Zielinska, who is the Managing Director of Workplace, and Annelou de Groot, who is the Head of Development at IWG, who operates several space as a service operations. So I think to get things started here, I think we should set the stage for everyone in the audience who's here and go through and get everyone's opinion on how do you define space as a service, and is that definition actually starting to evolve, getting with an understanding of how our concept of the spaces that we need are changing when we're dealing with this COVID-19. And so I'll just start here on the left of my screen with David. Would you like to start us off?
Sure. I'd mentioned in my keynote as well, because of my hotel background and my technology background, I am admittedly very biased. That I really see this being a shift over towards the employee in terms of how they choose to work. And a lot of our research in the last couple of months, and this is all kind of since Corona started, there's been an amazing self-reflection by employees. And Katharina mentioned it, beyond the kind of the memorable commute into the office, but being at home has made people start to kind of think about the fact, well, how do I want to work? If I sit in back-to-back calls on Zoom for 8 hours, is at home next to my partner and my snoring dog, as I had the other day on a call, the right place to be? So where's that space going to be? If I need to collaborate with other people who live in different parts of the city, then where is the perfect place for all of us to meet at? That's the most convenient for all of us and is the most productive for that meeting. And if I have really focused work to do, especially during periods like budget season, etc., then where is that perfect space? If I speak from my own preference, I need white noise. It can't be silent, otherwise I drive myself crazy, but it has to still be in a productive environment. And so I pull that back to that point about that we need to kind of see space as a service being very much focused on the decentralization, flexibility, access to space. We will never build the perfect space for all needs. Therefore, by creating a network of spaces, by putting the power back onto the employee, will truly deliver space as a service. Just as a last point, as a hotelier, I just like to turn that phrase from space as to space with a service, as I think that the service, the convenience that we can provide around the future of work is super important as well.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Annelou, let's go over to you. What is your definition of space as a service, and do you see that evolving moving forward?
Yes, of course, I see this evolving. Hi, for everyone who's attending from home or at the office. My name is Annelou. I work for IWG. IWG is the International Workplace Group. You might know us from our brands because we're a multi-branded company, Regis or Spaces. And how is the workspace as a service evolving? I totally agree with David that it's becoming more around the employee every day. And all trends before COVID were, COVID was a catalyzer for getting those trends faster. And one of the trends is the distributed workforce. I think, Katharina, you told us well how this distributed workforce works. And we truly believe in facilitating everyone from every city throughout the world. That means tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So a service is not only providing services in the building, but also providing an elaborate and a broad network of centers via our multi-brands. So it will evolve even more. We believe that flexibility combined with services, because we always think about of flexible only, but we do provide 100% of services, will become mainstream instead of a trend.
Yeah, thank you. And Dominika, would you like to take us next?
Yeah, hi everyone. I think that I will go with much simpler definition, because for me, space as a service or workplace as a service is all about which space I would like to use as a user and when I would like to use it, because it's more and more about individual needs of employees. And we can observe this trend because we, as a company, we're working for other bigger companies and corporations. And I agree with Katharina that in the future we will observe the mix of home spaces, and new spaces like buildings, and then of course flex spaces, but very decentralized, let's say, because people would like to have bigger choice of where and when they will work. And at the end of the day, it's all about the experience, because let's say, and compare it to hospitality, the experience will work for us as employees and as the owners of the companies, or against if the experience will be, let's say, poor. So, I'm quite optimistic about this topic, because for me, as also an employee and employer, the possibility to have a choice every day from where I will work and when, and which space will be the most suitable for my tasks, like everyday tasks or unusual tasks. That's like the biggest advantage of this space as a service topic.
Perfect, thank you. And Katharina.
Thanks, Derrek. I think space in the future, apart from what we've all discussed and agreed upon already, will have also huge influence on the culture of companies and also talent. So, attracting and keeping talent. Basically, especially the millennials now, they can look for jobs anywhere. It's about that atmosphere. It's about that space. It's about that opportunity to communicate with each other and meet and be inspired. So I think that's, for me, the biggest development.
And just keeping to that kind of thought on company culture and everything, with everyone, with a large percentage of people working from home, what impact do you see that having on the ability of companies to retain or grow what they consider to be their company culture? Is that something that's getting splintered now because so many people are working in so many different locations? And do you see there being a way for space as a service to maybe help companies to keep some semblance of a culture by providing, say, an on-demand space for company meetings or various get-togethers? Katharina?
Okay. I wasn't sure if you meant me or if you wanted to do the rounds again. I think it's not about one space. And I think we all agree, in fact, that David also picked on this. It's about finding a mixture of suitable workplaces. So I think after our experience from being allowed so flexibly to work from home, everybody wants that ability in the future. But what will that other workspace look like? I think companies will want an HQ. They will want a head office where they can all meet, where they brand their culture and their company. That can also be within a flexible space, of course. But then, does everybody want to travel that far? So I think there will be more local spaces being made available. And it's about that flexibility. So I think you don't need to lose a culture by becoming more flexible, But I think companies need to think about that harder. How do they keep that company culture going, partly remotely?
Yeah.
And if I can add on to that, I think that previously, from an HR and recruitment point of view, we were always looking to attract the best talent into a specific location. Impact of Corona means we actually now can just pick the best talent irrelevant of location. And that's great on one hand, but it's seismic shifts in terms of how we build culture within an organization, how we house them from a workspace point of view as well, coming back to the previous point about flexibility and whatever. So I think the jury's out in terms of what impact this is going to have. We're going to go through a bumpy couple of years because we're going to embrace technology as a way to kind of connect people that now live in the right place for them, not necessarily the right time zone for us from a brand, from a culture point of view. And a combination of workspace and HR technology, in my opinion, is going to kind of help to kind of streamline that and make building of global culture easier for even small organizations to achieve.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
Yes, because your question was, how can we help as operators, the corporates, in making sure that they don't lose their identity and lose their corporate culture? I think we can really, and we already do this a lot, partner with our clients. 60% of IWG's clients are corporates, and we have enterprise solutions. And one of those solutions is that any employee can book anything they want, for example, a meeting room, an office for a day, etc. And they have the corporate has a dashboard to see what is used by every employee, to see what their needs are. So this is only one example of how we already before COVID partnered with our corporates. And one thing from the presentation from Katharina is also a cost efficiency. We see that the corporates are wanting to reduce costs in terms of real estate. And that's another thing we can help without losing their corporate ID. So yes, we do this, and we can really be a partner for them.
Good. And Dominika, from your background looking at workplace research, where have you seen any impact on company culture from the work from home and from kind of having decentralized workplaces?
I would like to say that for me, it's that the company culture right now after COVID and like we are decentralized with people, that the biggest challenge, let's say, is how to connect people when right now the space is not the place where people are connected. So let's say we should maybe work on our values and what's not physical and what is connecting people and companies and what's really creating the company culture. Because right now, after let's say this COVID issue, we can observe that companies, we can split these companies on two parts, let's say. One, which really work well, even decentralized, because their culture was built around values and purpose. And the other side are corporations or companies which maybe were not so focused on creating real values and real culture, and probably they are suffering more right now. But it's only my assumption. I think that it's the biggest challenge is for leadership right now to go through these changes, and we should emphasize and we should I think focus even more than ever on people and their experiences right now, and we should ask more what with what they are struggling the most. Talking about feeling of not being connected with companies, but you know, what's behind this feeling of being not connected? Is it about really lacking of space or place, which will keep people together, or it's about more business and values? So.
Yeah. And just picking up on that, Dominika, do you think that moving forward, company culture will be more of a revolve around the personal relationships that are developed between colleagues. And so you, instead of saying you have a global company culture, you've more got a team culture where this group gets together as they're working on a particular project, and this other group has a similar culture, and they build up their idea of what the company and how they work through their personal relationships.
Honestly, I'm not sure that we should talk about the culture in the team and the culture in the company, because they will work probably in the same direction and for the same purpose. So from the perspective of culture in companies, I think we shouldn't separate it like that the culture and relationships in team are different than in the whole companies. But probably we will suffer from lack of more deeper relationships with our colleagues, because right now we are speaking through our screens and it's completely different experience. And I think that the building of new relationships will be harder for new employees, for sure.
And David, what about you and your concept on that, with what you're looking to do with Denizen and providing kind of a space with a service? And do you see that service having an impact on company culture, or the development of company culture, and how firms kind of can sustain that? You're muted, David.
Just proving why in-person conferences are always better. So let's take a step back. I've employed for my last company 70 developers. I didn't really care where they worked. From a development point of view, I really cared that they keep sort of lifelong learning and being around other developers and improving overall how they kind of bring new information into how we would build our product better. So I see the future being less about the need to necessarily house banks and banks of co-workers alongside one another, and I'd rather see in future that space as a service goes into, that we create buildings that have purpose, a place where developers, where designers, where marketeers, where and I think that's actually probably the natural kind of evolution of where we're going to go to. We'll continue to have fixed buildings and offices that sort of represent the brand, and these are great onboarding centers from a brand and culture perspective, and where a lot of training and sort of in-house development can take place. So I see there being a role for both, sort of fixed spaces as well as decentralized. The service part itself, I think, is independent of the company culture. I just simply think that, I think, Katharina, you mentioned it, on top of that 1 hour commute to work, to force people on top of working hard to be expected to live their lives as well, to get all of that adulting stuff done, that was way too much pressure. And I think the service part comes that a company like Denizen aims to help to make people more productive by adding in those layers of service convenience, digitally and physically, so they can focus on the day job ahead of them. That's not only our challenge. I think anyone in the flexible and space as a service segment is focused on that as well.
And based on that, do you see spaces then becoming, I would say, more personalized to the type of person or the type of job that's going to be done there? Not necessarily personalized as in putting your pictures and everything all over your desk, but more personalized to the job that's actually going to be done.
I think so. I mean, I'm biased. I sit in Berlin, which has very few Class A buildings and skyscrapers in it. The average building is 5 stories and 2,000 square meters in space. I often struggle to wonder how you get a co-working business to work in a lot of the high streets and business districts in a city like Berlin. But I also hope for a future where these smaller landlords can start to consider refactoring their building and providing sort of varied models within it: fixed lease, flexible lease, and space on demand. But I think it's more attractive when we start to develop entire neighborhoods as attracting particular talent. We see it already in cities. You have areas where startups, Silicon Valley, Silicon Roundabout, Silicon LA here in Berlin. I don't see there being a reason why you can't start to kind of take this into other sort of segments as well. So that's my sort of hybrid model for the future.
Perfect. And Annelou, coming over to you, considering that IWG does operate several brands within this space, what are you seeing in terms of picking up on what David was just mentioning about space as a service, space with a service, so on-demand spaces? Are you, across your portfolio, are you seeing a push or drive towards this as well?
Yes. So first of all, individualization and personalization. We do this already, as you say, with our different brands. Some of the brands are more around community building, where we, as a service, provide community, building the community within a property. Regis, for example, is more a business-wise brand. So that's already a way to personalize things. Either you like a more white label brand or more a community-like brand. Also the services that David provides, I think more and more we provide them either ourselves or jointly with the landlord. We are a true partner for the landlord. We are the ears and the eyes of the building. And landlords also see that they have to do more than just offer a lease, especially in multi-tenant buildings where we are just one of the tenants, but we most often operate the building. We gear up with the landlord and we try to have as much services as possible. And indeed, that can be packages, postal service, but also cleanery for your clothes, etc. And then in terms of micro level, on the floors that we rent, we provide different offices, meeting rooms, silence, call boxes where you can silently call. So I agree with Dominika that every task needs a different environment. So you need to, from home, you can work from yourself very quietly. You don't have distraction from anyone. In the office, you need to provide those different functionalities. So that's something we do, and we see this evolving even more. Why? Because the employee wants this, not because we want it. I think that's the trick. We have to listen to the client of our clients, which is this employee.
And Annelou, if I can just add on to that, we don't have to provide it all ourselves. We have neighborhoods in which all of these buildings exist that have an immense amount of service and convenience. I think this has been, I call it co-working 1.0. We've tried to cram everything into one building. We don't have to do that. Well, we've chosen to be in that neighborhood for a reason, because it suits our lifestyle, where we choose to live, also where we choose to work sometimes. And it's probably the missing ingredient at the moment in how co-working and flexible space providers can view the neighborhood that they occupy, not to invade it, but to embrace it, to become part of it. And that's not a critique, because the last 10 years have transformed the way that we view how our workspace experience is meant to be. It's just we can probably push past ping pong and kombucha in terms of services and think more holistically about how people choose to live and work within a particular neighborhood.
I agree totally. And you see these multi-use environments, micro environments where you can work, shop, and live. So everything is in the same environment. So I don't believe that a multi-use environment is here to a single-use environment is here to stay, where you have only offices. I see this even in one building, where you in the plinth you have retail, you have like restaurants, then you have offices, flex offices, a residential on top, and that's really, I think, something that's growing and where we can make use of the neighborhood, so to say, the micro neighborhood. Yeah, I agree totally.
Totally agree, Annelou. And I think it's then also very sustainable. You know, if you focus on the local neighborhood and let's say you bring in local companies that cater, it's all, you know, it's all very sustainable. It's what, you know, supports the environment on top of everything.
Perfect. Well, at this point, we're actually out of time for the roundtable right now. I'd like to very much thank our panelists. Thank you, David, Katharina, Dominika, and Annelou. Thank you to the audience who's here. Please stick around because we have one final keynote presentation on future of space as a service that is about to start now. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.